Hi, this is Mark Chandro. This is the first part of a series for my video blog of climbing Mount Rainier this coming June 20th, 2016. This is the first time I've ever climbed Mount Rainier, and I've never attempted a mountain, I think, of this magnitude. It's a 2-day climb up several glaciers. The first day is something like 8 hours of climbing. The second day is about 18 hours of climbing. All of it mostly technical, meaning requiring the use of ropes for protection, crampons, ice picks, and of course, the extreme weather of a 14,000 plus foot volcano outside of Seattle, Washington. Just quick stats about me. I am 44 years old. I weigh about 205 pounds right now, 5 foot 10 and a half, and I'll tell you why that's important in a few minutes. I live here part of the time I should say, in Southern California in Newport Beach, and I am excited about climbing the mountain with 3 of my good friends, Dave, Jamie, and Kevin Palmer. So it's going to be great to spend a few days with them. Obviously, we've been training for the last few months, but the reason I wanted to do this video is kind of explain a couple of reasons why it's important to me to climb this mountain. It's always been a dream of mine to climb Mount Rainier. My grandmother lived in the Tacoma, Washington area. My father was from that area and grew up in there. And I went a few times as a kid to visit them, and I was always inspired by this amazing, majestic mountain off in the distance. And I've always been I would say, definitely a very part-time mountain climber. I've done a few mountains. I've climbed Whitney a few times. I've done a bunch of climbs, of course, where I grew up back east in New Hampshire in the White Mountains. I've also climbed a lot of the Sierras. I've climbed all of the mountains here in Southern California, including Baldy, Gorgonio, Yosemite, over the last 20 years or so. But I've never done a big expedition like this. Something that requires, it's almost mandatory that you have a guide, it's a guided tour, that you've got to, bring a lot of equipment, a lot of, heavy, high altitude, high intensity, I guess. What am I trying to say? Extremely cold is what it is going to be. It's going to be cold, and that's kind of the big difference for me. Climbing somewhere where it requires a summit jacket and a lot of hours. But the reason that I climb mountains is because it really challenges me physically, and I think that's probably the most important thing. As I mentioned, I'm about 200 plus pounds. Last year in October, so I was around 235 pounds. I'd really gained a lot of weight, and just through changes of lifestyle, getting older, slowing down physically, and it wasn't acceptable to me. I've always wanted to, and I feel like I should be the healthiest of my life every single day. If I can strive to be extremely healthy, everything else fits into place. My mental health is strong. If my physical health is strong, my life is much more balanced if I'm exercising regularly and taking care of myself, and I just let myself go. I let myself gain a lot of weight. I was eating poorly. I wasn't exercising to the intensity that I really needed to. And to really jumpstart that, putting a huge goal like climbing Rainier on the calendar really helped motivate me to lose the weight. And those are the things I found throughout my 44 years of living is I've got to have big challenges every year. I've got to have a big trip. I've got to have a big physical challenge. And those are the things that push me. They push me to, achieve all my goals. And the reason is because it forces a deadline on something. It's very hard to maintain success and achieve your goals without real deadlines. They just keep being pushed back and back and back and back. But when you put down money and you make a deposit to do a climb like Rainier, and you put a date on it, it forces everything else in your life in line. It forces you to be more disciplined with your exercise, of course. It forces you to be more disciplined with your eating. It forces you, and the reason that I'm saying that now is, look at me, I just got back from a 3-mile run, a little sweaty, but I was just on I was also just got off a 5-hour flight from Florida, a different time zone. But I got to California, and I worked out, and I would not have done that if this trip was not on the calendar. I've done that a couple times in my life. I did my first amateur boxing match a couple of years ago. It really forced me to get into shape, and I think that for me to continue to be successful And for me to continue to have balance in my life, both physically and more importantly mentally, I've got to have these challenges lined up on a regular basis. And I'm excited to take on this climb. I'm excited to talk to you guys about my experiences doing that, and show you and introduce you to my great friends, and experience kind of the fun that we have in doing this amazing challenge. And we are excited about doing that. So I look forward to talking to you soon. This is the first part of my video blog. Again, Mark Shandro signing off for Team Rainier here in 2016.